The untold story of Sylvester Stallone's 5 children. Sylvester Stallone, for millions, the name means Rocky Balboa, the Italian stallion who clawed his way from nothing to a championship belt. It means John Rambo, the lone warrior surviving against impossible odds. Stallone's career has been built on characters who never quit, who take life's hardest punches and keep getting back up. But beyond the cameras and scripts lies a different story, one unscripted, often messy, and deeply human. It is the story of Sylvester Stallone as a father. He has 5 children, one son who shared the screen with him, only to leave the world heartbreakingly young. Another son who grew up quietly, teaching his family about resilience in ways no Hollywood script could. 3 daughters, poised, ambitious, and strong, who carved out their own lives while carrying a legendary last name. This is not the story of a movie star, but of a man whose greatest battles have been fought not in boxing rings or battlefields, but within the complicated role of being a father. This is the untold story of Sylvester Stallone's 5 children. A legend's rise. Stallone's own beginnings were far from glamorous. Born July 6, 1946, in Hell's Kitchen, New York, his entry into the world was marked by trauma. A difficult birth caused nerve damage, leaving the lower left side of his face paralyzed. The result was a slurred speech and distinctive expression, trademarks that later made him unique, but as a boy, made him a target. His father, Frank Stallone Sr., was a barber and polo enthusiast, tough and often harsh. His mother, Jackie, was flamboyant, eccentric, and endlessly unconventional, at various times a dancer, a fortune teller, and even a wrestling promoter. Their marriage was turbulent, and the Stallone boys, Sylvester and younger brother Frank Jr., grew up in a chaotic household filled with conflict. Stallone bounced between schools, frequently in trouble. He was expelled more than a dozen times before finding solace in athletics and writing. Even then, teachers doubted him. One told him he'd never succeed in anything because of his speech, but rather than give up, Stallone began scribbling stories of underdogs, misfits, and dreamers. In his 20s, he chased acting with relentless determination. The rejections piled up. He was told his face was wrong, his voice was wrong, his body too awkward. To survive, he worked odd jobs, cleaning lion cages at the zoo, selling tickets at a movie theater, even starring in a low-budget adult film when desperation left him with no rent money. At one point, he was so broke he sold his beloved dog, Bootkus, for $50 outside a liquor store. That moment of despair sparked the breakthrough. In just 3 days, he wrote Rocky. The script captured his own hunger, the story of an overlooked man who just needed a chance. Studios offered to buy the script, but refused to let him star. He turned them all down. Finally, United Artists agreed, though the budget was tight and expectations low. When Rocky premiered in 1976, it became a cultural phenomenon. It won 3 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, and Stallone became a household name. Suddenly, the man who had been told he'd never make it was the face of the American dream. But fame had its costs. Relationships frayed, time at home was scarce, and the line between personal and professional blurred. Stallone would go on to marry 3 times and father 5 children. Each child, in their own way, would inherit not just his name, but his battles. Sage Stallone, the firstborn son. Sage Moonblood Stallone was born in May 1976, just as his father's star was rising with Rocky. Hollywood was already part of his DNA. As a child, he watched his father become a global icon, larger than life on the big screen. At 14, Sage stepped into the spotlight himself, starring as Rocky's son in Rocky V. Their father-son dynamic in the movie mirrored real life, warm but fraught with tension. Critics praised the authenticity of their relationship. For a time, it looked like Sage might follow directly in his father's footsteps. But Sage had a different vision. He was passionate about cinema, but not about blockbuster fame. After studying filmmaking, he co-founded Grindhouse Releasing, a company devoted to restoring and distributing cult films. He cared deeply about preserving art house and underground cinema, films that might otherwise be lost. He also directed short films and planned to build a career behind the camera. Friends described him as sensitive, intellectual, and fiercely independent. While he admired his father, he wrestled with the shadow cast by Stallone's fame. He wanted to be more than just Rocky's son. Tragedy struck on July 13th, 2012. Sage was found dead in his Los Angeles home at the age of 36. The cause was coronary artery disease. Rumors swirled about substance abuse, but the coroner confirmed no drugs were involved. His death was sudden and devastating. Stallone was filming The Expendables 2 when he received the news. He described it as the most painful loss a parent can endure. For a man who played invincible heroes, Sage's death exposed a raw human vulnerability. He withdrew from public appearances, shielding his family from the media frenzy. Later, he admitted to carrying guilt. Wondering if his demanding career had robbed him of more time with Sage, Hollywood mourned alongside him. Tributes remembered Sage as a promising filmmaker and kind soul gone too soon. For Stallone, the loss of his firstborn son remains a scar that fame, money, or time can never heal. Sergio Stallone, The Quiet Son. In 1979, Stallone and Sasha Chak welcomed their second son, Sergio, but joy soon gave way to fear. As a toddler, Sergio was diagnosed with autism. At the time, public awareness of autism was minimal and support was scarce. While Sage had grown up in the public eye, Stallone and Sasha made a different decision for Sergio. They pulled him away from Hollywood, focusing on therapy, structure, and family. He appeared briefly as Rocky's infant son in Rocky II, but after that, he retreated from cameras completely. Sasha gave up her own career to care for him full-time, while Stallone threw himself into funding research and advocacy. In the 1980s, Stallone appeared at events for the Autism Society of America, raising awareness and money at a time when few celebrities spoke on the subject. He later admitted in interviews that fatherhood, especially with Sergio, required a kind of patience he hadn't known before. Though his life remains private, Sergio's impact on his family is profound. Stallone has described him as a beautiful soul, emphasizing that the lessons of compassion, love, and resilience he learned from Sergio were as important as any career milestone. Today, Sergio lives quietly, away from public life. He is rarely photographed, and his story is largely shielded from the spotlight. But for Stallone, he represents a different kind of hero. Not the kind who wins fights on screen, but the kind who teaches what unconditional love truly means. Sophia Stallone, the heir of elegance. With his second marriage to model Jennifer Flavin, Stallone welcomed 3 daughters. The first was Sophia Rose, born in 1996. From the beginning, Sophia's story was one of survival. At just 2 months old, she underwent open-heart surgery for a congenital defect. Stallone, who had fought so many fictional battles, admitted this was the scariest fight of his life. Sophia recovered, but the ordeal left a lasting impression. As she grew, Sophia developed into the most grounded of the Stallone siblings. She studied communications and entrepreneurship at the University of Southern California, proving she had both intellect and drive. Often described as poised and mature beyond her years, she is considered her father's confidant. Stallone has even admitted that Sophia helps him review his scripts, offering feedback before projects move forward. Sophia also embraced the spotlight, appearing with Stallone at premieres and award shows, often acting as his plus one. Her fashion sense and elegance have landed her in Vogue and Harper's Bazaar. Alongside her sisters, she co-hosts the Unwaxed podcast, where she balances humor with serious insights. Beyond entertainment, Sophia dedicates time to raising awareness for heart health, turning her personal survival story into advocacy. Within the family, she is the second mom, guiding her sisters with warmth and authority. For Stallone, Sophia represents both resilience and responsibility, the daughter who grew from fragile beginnings into one of his greatest sources of strength. Sistine Stallone, the model turned actress. 2 years later, in 1998, Jennifer gave birth to Sistine Rose. If Sophia is the anchor, Sistine is the star. With her striking beauty and charisma, Sistine stormed into the modeling world. She signed with IMG Models, appeared in Harper's Bazaar and Town and Country, and made her runway debut with Chanel. For a young model, Chanel is the dream, and Sistine achieved it early, but her ambitions didn't stop there. She transitioned into acting, starring in 47 Meters Down, Uncaged in 2019. While the film drew mixed reviews, Sistine's performance hinted at promise. She has since expressed a desire to pursue more roles, balancing her modeling career with acting. What makes Sistine unique is her honesty. On the Unwaxed podcast, she shares candid stories about rejection, pressure, and growing up as a celebrity's daughter. She often cites her father's advice that rejection is part of the fight and resilience is the only way forward. Behind the glamour, Sistine has shown vulnerability. She admitted she was nervous during her first Chanel show, worrying she didn't belong. Yet she pushed forward, a trait that clearly echoes her father's underdog spirit. Sistine is at a crossroads, but wherever her career leads, she embodies her father's tenacity with her own bold flair. Scarlett Stallone, the youngest fighter. In 2002, the Stallone family welcomed their youngest child, Scarlett Rose. As the baby of the family, she grew up surrounded by love and attention, but she quickly proved she was more than just the youngest. Scarlett excelled in athletics, particularly track and field. She earned recognition at competitions, with Stallone often proudly posting videos of her races. Watching Scarlett sprint reminded him of Rocky's training montages: raw energy, determination, and heart. But Scarlett is more than just an athlete. On social media, she has built a lively following, showcasing humor, family moments, and her close bond with her father. Fans adore her playful energy, often calling her the funniest Stallone. She jokingly refers to herself as the favorite child, leaning into the humor of being the youngest. Stallone has said Scarlett is the most athletic of his children, and her fiery spirit often reminds him of his own early hunger. Though still young, she embodies the resilience and charm of her family name. Whether she pursues sports, entertainment, or something entirely new, Scarlett carries the Stallone spirit forward, bold, energetic, and impossible to ignore. The legacy of a father. Sylvester Stallone's life has been an epic saga, but his children's stories are chapters that reveal a different side of the fighter. Sage, the creative son whose life ended too soon. Siarjo, the quiet child who taught him patience and compassion. Sophia, the resilient daughter who turned survival into elegance. Sistine, the bold dreamer carving her own path in fashion and film. And Scarlett, the youngest fighter, carrying forward the Stallone grit with humor and energy. The world will always see Stallone as Rocky and Rambo, but for him the greatest role has been Dad. It's not a role he always played perfectly, but it's the one that defines his heart. In Rocky Balboa, Stallone wrote, "It's not about how hard you hit, it's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward." That philosophy doesn't just define his characters, it defines his family. Through loss, through struggle, through triumph, Stallone and his children have kept moving forward. And in the end, his children remind us of something simple but profound. Legacies are not measured by trophies or ticket sales. They are measured in love, in the lives you touch, and in the family you leave behind. If you've been moved by the untold story of Sylvester Stallone's 5 children, don't let the journey end here. Subscribe to our channel for more stories hidden behind Hollywood's brightest lights. Share your thoughts in the comments. Which of Stallone's children's journeys surprised you the most? And tell us, whose family legacy should we uncover next? Because every legend leaves behind more than what we see on screen. And here we're committed to bringing you those stories, one family at a time.